I'm trying to move to a new phone and I've narrowed it down to two. The Vivo X200 Pro, which is basically a camera with a phone attached to it, and the iPhone 16 Pro Max, the latest iPhone flagship. To make a final decision, I decided to put these two phones head to head in a day in the life comparison, testing their battery life, camera, and gaming performance, while spending a day with Daria at the Christmas markets in Vienna. The day started with some YouTube videos playing for around an hour. Surprisingly, neither phones lost much battery, only a percent or two, which shows how efficient the screens are becoming. The Vivo X200 Pro has a 6000 mAh battery, while the iPhone has a 4600 mAh battery. However, since the Vivo is slightly smaller, it is also a bit lighter. I headed out to the market with both phones connected to the same 5G network. Let's test the selfie camera and microphones test. Let's check the mic test. On the left side we have Vivo X200 Pro. On the right side we have iPhone 16 Pro Max. Let's see which one have a better audio. Usually iPhone audios are the best. That's only my experience, but maybe Vivo surprises us. I don't know. It's a sunny day. I'm going to the Christmas market in Schönbrunn. And this is also the dynamic range with the selfie camera. According to GSM Arena, the Vivo is slightly brighter than the iPhone. From personal experience, I can tell you both phones are incredibly bright, and you really don't need anything more than that. The Vivo has three cameras with a large Zeiss T-Star coated camera bump. This bump houses three lenses, an ultrawide, a wide, and a telephoto lens. While the ultrawide and wide lenses on the Vivo are very close in quality to the iPhone, the telephoto sensor on the Vivo is 80% larger than the iPhone's, making it perfect for low light conditions. On the iPhone, we also have three lenses on the back, but they are tucked neatly into the corner for a more streamlined design. The telephoto lens on the iPhone offers 5x zoom, while the Vivo provides 3.6x. However, that's just a number. If you zoom to 5x on the Vivo, the quality is actually better. I prefer the colors on the Vivo here, as they are more neutral. The main lens is quite similar on both phones, since the specs are pretty close. This year, Vivo chose not to include a 1-inch sensor, unlike last year's Vivo X100 Pro. For the ultrawide lens, the quality is very similar between the two phones. What surprises me though is how much the color science and white balance differ. The Vivo leans warmer with more greens, while the iPhone has a much colder white balance. Both phones support 120 frames per second video, but the quality on the Vivo at 120 frames per second is lacking. On the other hand, the iPhone crops heavily to achieve this frame rate. We arrived at the Christmas market in Schönbrunn, a beautiful castle located in southwest of Vienna. There was a guy impersonating Mozart. Little does he know that identity theft is not a joke. Millions of Austrian painters and musicians suffer every year. All the pictures I took that day were in Zeiss authentic mode, with beauty filters turned off, yet they still turn out vibrant. For instance, one photo on the Vivo was slightly overexposed and too colorful, but that worked well when I photographed Daria. The warmer tone on her skin looked really good. Both phones have a portrait video mode with excellent focus. I didn't experience any focus jumps on either phone. The main difference was the warmer colors on the Vivo versus the colder tones on the iPhone. The same goes for the selfie camera. The photos were of a similar quality, but the skin tones appeared warmer on the Vivo and colder on the iPhone. In portrait mode, Vivo tends to oversaturate the scene slightly, while both phones produce a nice artificial bokeh effect. The Vivo camera app provides more options to play with compared to the iPhone, such as manual photo and video modes, along with other features that the iPhone lacks. In daylight, Vivo's pictures tend to be brighter, while the iPhone's photos look a bit more realistic. That said, I prefer the Vivo shots for social media sharing. As mentioned earlier, the telephoto lens on the Vivo is more capable than the one on the iPhone, which was put to the test. Here at 10x telephoto zoom capture. Vivo clearly retained more detail. At 25x zoom, the difference becomes even more apparent, with Vivo delivering stunning results. Overall, in daylight, the main difference lies in the color science. Vivo's colors are warmer and more saturated, while iPhone's colors are colder and more muted. By this point, the Vivo had 88% battery remaining, while the iPhone had 86%. We went into a cafe for some coffee and cheese sandwich. Here, we noticed that opposite trend. Vivo's video was darker, while the iPhone's was brighter. For pictures, it was the reverse. Vivo increased the exposure. Both phones performed well in this shot, but highlighted how Vivo's white balance leans warmer with more yellow tones, while the iPhone's is colder. Neither phones managed to perfectly capture my skin tone, which falls somewhere between the two. Sisi, the emperor of Austro-Hungarian Empire and woman featured in the pictures, lived in Schönbrunn. The souvenir theme here resolved around her. Vivo has a fantastic super macro mode that allows you to take macro photos using the telephoto lens. I use it here to capture some excellent shots. This mode is great for photographing small objects from a distance and performs much better than the iPhone in this regard. While the iPhone can take macro shots without a dedicated mode, the quality doesn't compare to Vivo's. It was time to explore the Christmas market and visit Schönbrunn Castle. There is a Christmas market right in front of the castle, featuring entertainment for kids and numerous food and jewelry stands. Vivo expected to take better night photos, particularly with its telephoto lens. I took a telephoto shot with both phones. The Vivo's photo had more accurate colors and far more detail than the iPhone's. Both phones created large artifacts on the sensor from reflections, but the Vivo still captured more detail. Similarly, both phones showed green artifacts on my clothing from light reflections. When comparing the main lens, the quality is closer, with the main difference being the skin tone and white balance. In selfie videos, the Vivo is brighter and more exposed, while the iPhone is darker but closer to reality. It ultimately comes down to personal preference. Both phones offer different photography modes. A great feature of the iPhone's color profile is that you can adjust them later in the gallery, whereas Vivo's profiles are baked into the photo and cannot be changed. However, Vivo offers more customization options upfront. Here are some different photos I took with the color profiles and portrait modes on the iPhone 16 Pro Max and Vivo X200 Pro. For the ultrawide lens at night, the quality is very similar between the two phones. The white balance differs slightly. The iPhone makes white appears deeper, which can look artificial, especially since Christmas market's lighting is more yellow. Vivo captured these tones more accurately. One common criticism online is that Vivo lenses suffer from reflection issues. However, I found this issue to be 10 times worse on the iPhone. For example, on the iPhone's screen, it looked like a UFO was hovering over the merry-go-round. In this video, the iPhone footage clearly has too many artifacts, completely ruining the shot. I cleaned both lenses multiple times, but it didn't improve the iPhone's performance. For pictures though, the iPhone does better with muted but accurate colors, whereas Vivo's photos are vivid and slightly oversaturated. Both phones can shoot in log format, which produces very flat videos without contrast, giving you freedom to edit colors later. I personally prefer Vivo's log. It is easier to color grade. I often struggle to properly expose footage when using log on the iPhone. For instance, I applied RE colors to the footage, and the Vivo looked far more cinematic. For this reason alone, I choose the Vivo camera over the Galaxy S24 Ultra. Before heading home, the Vivo X200 Pro had 73% battery remaining, while the iPhone 16 Pro Max was at 68%. A side note, the Vivo is a bit tricky to hold without a case. It is slippery, and the uneven weight distribution due to the camera bump doesn't help. Once home, I decided to play some games. I installed Genshin Impact on both phones, which took a while. By the time the game was installed, the Vivo X200 Pro had 58% battery, while the iPhone 16 Pro Max was at 55%. I played Genshin Impact for 50 minutes on max setting, at 60 frames per second on both phones. Genshin Impact is a heavy game, making it a great test for Dimensity 9400 and Apple A18 Pro chipsets. Neither phone experienced visible frame drops. By the end, the Vivo reached 38 degrees Celsius, while the iPhone was slightly cooler at 36 degrees Celsius. Considering I was running max setting, both phones performed exceptionally well. Next, I exported a video taken earlier. The Vivo X200 Pro finished the export in 1 minute and 46 seconds, while the iPhone took 2 minutes and 58 seconds. This difference was surprising. The gap shouldn't be this large. To cross-check, I tried importing videos into Adobe Premiere Pro. However, none of the videos from the iPhone, including log footage, successfully imported, so I couldn't complete the comparison. By the end of my test, after 4 hours and 20 minutes of screen on time, the Vivo X200 Pro had 50% battery left, while the iPhone 16 Pro Max had 46%. Both phones performed exceptionally well, considering how much I pushed them throughout the day. So iPhone 16 Pro Max had one of the best battery life I've ever seen, and Vivo X200 Pro is even better than that, so you won't have any problem during the day. You may even be able to get 2 days of battery life out of it. The camera was also better, especially at night, especially regarding the reflection, and also when it comes to the telephoto lens. That said, software is also quite important. Apple has iOS and many people prefer that. The Android on Vivo is also great. It's quite smooth, but you should also consider how much support you get if you turn into an issue, especially in Western countries. For iPhone, you get much more support compared to Vivo. But if you just look at the device by itself, Vivo, of course, gives a lot more value for the money that you're spending. Thanks for tuning into Tecmo. If you enjoyed this video, I also did a comparison of the Vivo X200 Pro versus the Galaxy S24 Ultra, which you can watch next. And I will see you in the next one.